This is the realme GT2 Pro, the successor to the popular original realme GT. This time, they're turning it into a top-tier flagship model. It has an amazing 10-bit display panel, the world's first 150-degree ultra-wide smartphone camera, the latest Snapdragon 8 Gen 1 chipset inside, and a rather new way of achieving environmental friendliness. With all these factors combined, it only costs between $570 and $740, which is extremely attractive for a latest flagship phone. So if the Realme's first ever flagship, the GT2 Pro, any good? Let's find out. And here it is, the realme GT2 Pro. Inside the box, we have the phone itself with a green finish to it, which is rather special. I'll get to that later. We've also got a normal phone case, a Type-A to Type-C charging cable, a charging brick that supports 65-watt fast charging, and of course, some literature. Most importantly, there is a line that says the future in paper, and this is where the phone gets interesting. Recently, phone companies are throwing a lot of effort into their product's sustainability by removing earphones, charging bricks, and basically all the other things that they think are unnecessary to make the packaging smaller and reduce carbon emissions. However, Realme not only refuses to shrink the packaging size, but they also include the charging brick for free because they choose a different path and they started off with the phone and the packaging material. When you look closely at the back of the phone, you will see some interesting patterns because it's actually made of bio-based polymer. This might sound like a fancy term. Basically, it's a material made from recycled paper which creates 35% less carbon emissions. Now you know why the packaging and the back of the phone look and feel the same. And honestly, I quite enjoy the feeling of this type of new material. The phone is 8.18 millimeters thick and weighs around 189 grams. Moving on to the front of the phone, we have an impressive 6.7-inch WQHD Plus display with 525 pixels per inch, which is at the top tier of the flagship phone displays. It's an LTPO 10-bit display that supports an adaptive refresh rate from 1 to 120 Hz and can display up to 1 billion different colors. As a result, it can show more accurate colors during media consumptions and save a ton of battery when doing light activities such as scrolling through photos or reading ebooks. Also, it's just a really nice flat screen to look at. Now we know that the display is definitely at the flagship level, but how about the processors inside? Well, it has the latest Snapdragon 8 Gen 1, just like other recently announced flagship phones, so how fast is it? Let's bring out our old friend Instant Impact to test its performance and thermal capabilities. We will be testing the GT2 Pro with its GT mode, which is its performance mode. Turn on and run the test at 18 degrees Celsius room temperature with the battery fully charged and running on Wi-Fi signals. We will be using the same standard for this test with graphics set to medium, frame rate set to 60, motion blur turn off, and make our protagonist run in nighttime leisure for 5 minutes. During our test, you can see the frame rate fluctuates from 47 to 55 frames per second, which is as good as other recent flagship phones with the same Snapdragon 8 Gen 1 inside. To power this energy-hungry processor, we definitely need a large battery. Inside, we have a massive 5000 mAh battery. At the same time, the GT2 Pro supports 65-watt super dart charge, so just a quick 30-minute charge will get you enough power when you're on the go. Finally, let's move on to the cameras. The GT2 Pro has a triple camera module with a 50-megapixel main camera with optical image stabilization, a world's first 50-megapixel 150-degree ultra-wide phone camera, as well as a 40x macro lens. The GT2 Pro also supports capturing photos in 10-bit color depths, and if you want to know more about what 10-bit photos can do, click here to learn more. Now let's begin with the brand new ultra-wide camera. A 150-degree field of view kind of sounds like a lot, but how wide is it really? This is a photo captured with the main camera, now with the ultra-wide lens, with distortions corrected, and with the full 150-degree ultra-wide lens. Here is a rough estimate of how wide each camera is, and we can see that the full ultra-wide lens covers a massive field of view. There is even a fisheye mode for you to be creative. Speaking of fisheye mode, the GT2 Pro has a ton of different shooting modes, including fisheye mode, street photography mode, and even a microscope mode that uses the 40x macro lens. Here are some photos taken in microscope mode. Can you guess what these are? Moving to image quality, let's see how the GT2 Pro does in comparison to the latest iPhone. Starting with the main camera, we can see that in daylight conditions, both phones produce almost identical photos. When we zoom in, we can see the GT2 Pro looks a bit sharper than the iPhone, but there are a lot of image noises in the corners. Moving to the ultra-wide lens this time, we begin to see some differences in colors and sharpness. When both phones are equally sharp, we can see the iPhone looks artificial and over-sharpened in the details, while the GT2 Pro still looks natural. However, there is a green tint to the entire image of the GT2 Pro. I would say the iPhone is better at recreating natural colors, while the GT2 Pro is good at preserving all the details. Finally, we have a photo taken in the shades with lots of contrast going on with the ultra-wide cameras. This time, it looks like the iPhone is producing sharper images than the GT2 Pro. At the same time, photos from the GT2 Pro seem to have raised the shadows a lot, which can be more pleasing to look at. But it loses the original contrast in the image. I guess it just depends on which one you prefer. Overall, as Realme's first smartphone to enter the top-tier flagship market, the GT2 Pro is extremely competitive, especially when you take into consideration that this phone only costs $740 max. It makes me wonder what Realme will bring to the table for the next year's flagship phone. What do you think of Realme's first flagship phone? Please let us know in the comments down below. Okay, that's all that we have for you today. If you like this video, please give us a thumbs up. If you haven't subscribed to our channel already, please do so. And if you want to know more about China's technology and business, see you next time. Bye!